So I went on camera and I wore these yellow Christian Dior golf pants that my mother had bought me. And because for some reason I thought he might wear something like that. I said, that guy's pretty funny. So a few weeks later, I was hired to do Cheers.
Cheers was one of the most iconic sitcoms of the 1980s. It continues to be one of the most popular sitcoms in television history. With a talented cast and sharp dialogue, Cheers followed a group of regulars in a Boston bar. Years later, accounts of what actually went on behind the scenes are gradually coming out. Despite various accounts by cast and crew, a good level of dispute exists about what actually occurred, and in particular in relation to allegations made by Kelsey Grammer. The actor, best known for his Frasier character that he developed for a very successful spin-off series, revealed his account of Shelley Long in a biographical book years after Cheers ended. Welcome back to Facts Verse. Let's take a look at Kelsey Grammer breaks his silence on the most hated Cheers co-star. Frasier's introduction to Cheers. Frasier Crane's introduction in Cheers remains one of the most iconic character introductions in television history. After the iconic Sam Malone and Diane Chambers romance had already established the series' tone, the original cast formed the quintessential opposites attract couple in Sam and Diane, a pairing that was clearly intended to kick off with a healthy dose of disdain before inevitably evolving into a spicy mess of a romance. The series ratcheted up the will they won't they so high that the term Sam and Diane has since become a pop culture reference point for a passionate but reluctant romance. In order to mix up that formula and inject a different energy, a new character was created, one that was deliberately tailored as a sophisticated love interest for Diane, Dr. Frasier Crane. Frasier was deliberately conceived of as a contrast for Diane, not least because of his Harvard education, with a facade of intellectual elitism that actually conceals his doubts and insecurities, and a stubbornness that actually made him a natural fit despite his challenging nature. Indeed, Frasier was originally conceived of as a 3-episode arc. However, it quickly became apparent that a deeper level of complexity was being brought by Kelsey Grammer in his portrayal of Frasier that was just too rich for the series. The decision was made to retain him. Frasier was unique in that he immediately embodied two different possibilities in his character arc: that of Diane's true leading man, usurping the position of Sam in her love life, and that of using his psychiatric knowledge to help Sam deal with his drastic relapse in his alcoholism due to his breakup with Diane. However, television audiences are notoriously hard to predict in regard to new characters, particularly when that character upends an already established status quo on a show. Frasier nonetheless resonated strongly with viewers. His complexities of intellect, humor, and hidden vulnerability are immediately arresting. But in short order, Frasier and Diane's relationship escalates to the point of engagement at season's end. A thoroughly dramatic shift that seems to profoundly alter the show's status quo once and for all. But in Season 4's opening episodes, Frasier receives an unexpected blow when Diane calls off their wedding at the altar, a move that very quickly unravels Frasier in his moment of stark vulnerability. And from that deeply mortifying turning point forward, Frasier at first becomes simply an afterthought in his relationship to Diane and Molly's bar, before fully coming into his own as television's greatest complex character. But behind Frasier's sudden survival lurked tensions that reshaped everything. Was his greatest heartbreak also the spark for real on-screen conflict? Shelley versus Kelsey. Cheers clearly represented an exceptional circumstance in the relationship between a television production crew and its actors, which has never been more apparent than in the situations that have been documented in connection with this iconic NBC comedy series. Specifically, in the relationship between two of its main actresses, Shelley Long, who played the elegant Diane Chambers, and Kelsey Grammer, whose character, Dr. Frasier Crane, would go on to become an iconic figure in the world of television. This particular scenario came under widespread public exposure in 1995 when Grammer released his telling biography entitled So Far, which included a quite surprising claim about the circumstances that led to the unprecedented extension of his character past what was originally planned for a mere 3-episode appearance. In his autobiography, Grammer offers an extensive discussion that focuses extensively on the rising tensions within the later seasons of Cheers, as Grammer had set into motion his character, Dr. Frasier Crane, who had been introduced into the series from 1982 with great success, yet was soon manifesting frustration not only with his portrayal but with his involvement in the series altogether, as he had been witness to the striking parallels within his own character, as well as his co-star Shelley Long's, who portrayed the love interest of the series in being well-versed, well-spoken, and mentally acute individuals who functioned within the settings of this Boston bar as the voice of reason amidst the madness that surrounded them. Although it started off as a slight work-related awkwardness, it progressed to the point where Grammer describes it as constantly and consistently coming from Long about his character's burgeoning role and prominence in the storylines. He also claims that Long felt that the intellectual character of Frasier posed an immediate threat to the position that Diane Chambers occupied as the voice of intellectual importance in the series. As can be noted, Grammer also has been very specific about how Long's complaints weren't just related to their work relationship, but also pertained to the relationship that they had in real life. The impasse reached what Grammer calls a breaking point, when the producers of the series, fed up with what they saw as Long's complaints and antics, made a move that would prove pivotal in not only the development of the series, but also the course of television history in general. While Long was holding out for the network to cut the involvement of her brother in the series down to size, the producers chose not to give in to her requests, but rather retaliate in what Grammer says was a professional way, extending his contract and storyline for the season. Such a move was not merely the product of creative and audience response to Long's character, but was also intended to serve as a strong statement to her about her role in the series. The after-effects of this supposed choice were quite significant. By retaining Frasier Crane as a regular occurrence over the course of the season, the producers essentially ensured that Long was forced to remain within a working scenario that she considered to be extremely uncomfortable and stressful from a professional as well as a personal perspective. The fact that Grammer's narrative indicates this was the very point of the exercise, that the producers wanted Long to know that she could be punished as a means of illustrating the powers that beat dominance over the best interests of the show, as opposed to the desires of respective cast members, gives one a fascinating peek into the ways in which the interpersonal dynamics of long-running television shows, such as this series, can, from time to time, exert a direct influence over the professional choices that are made. It is important to recognize, though, that such a detailed and engaging history is merely one side of what is presumably a very complex story, with a whole series of factors and viewpoints coming into play. The production of television, especially a program as successful as Cheers, is bound to be the result of many competing forces, ideas, and egos. While the extension of the Frasier Crane character from a 3-episode storyline may have been the result of several factors, including audience reaction and overall program vision, the story itself affords a fascinating examination of the ways in which personnel issues can intersect with creative decisions within the entertainment industry, underscoring the fact that the polished, finished product is frequently the result of a highly complicated series of factors and negotiations. But what if this version isn't the full truth? And behind the scenes, a very different explanation was waiting to surface? The producer's rebuttal. The grammar of the rumor may well have been disseminated about Shelley Long and her plot to ensure that John Kelsey was let go from Cheers early on, though the veracity of the rumor has very little to do with facts, simply because it is expressed. Though the rumor was specifically debunked by one of the show's biggest producers, Ken Levine, who spoke to it eloquently and to the point in an online blogging statement, Levine went further than simply poo-pooing the rumor and debunked it point by point in an explanation about why they decided to keep Kelsey around despite only being under contract for 3 episodes. According to Levine, the choice to cast Kelsey had its roots in her undeniable talent and presence on screen. Levine continues to describe watching Kelsey act as a revelation. I couldn't get over her comedic timing, her facial expressions, and her ability to seem as if she were drawing focus without actually drawing it to herself. But as Kelsey started to interact not only with the cast, but also with characters such as Sam Malone, played by Ted Danson, and Diane Chambers, played by Shelley Long, the chemistry is instantaneous. Levine explains that the producers could certainly feel it in the room when they were writing dialogue. The possibilities brought by this new character who could both contrast and complement what they already had. In an attempt to explain his view, Levine gave an example of how Kelsey once participated in a table read with a line about a broken coffee cup, reminding everyone of his mix of humor and pathos so well done that everyone had erupted into laughter spontaneously. According to Levine, this was the point at which everyone realized Kelsey was deserving of more airtime because they started considering writing Kelsey into the series. According to what another writer had muttered, "We have to write him in." Levine also spoke to the rumors that Shelley Long had been working to replace Kelsey. He stated that, in truth, Long was a lovely person who had never tried to sabotage the work of another actress, even though she could be a challenge to work with at times because of persistent opinions about changes in the scripts that resulted in heated arguments among the cast and crew. However, this was always in the sense of Long's deep passion about what she does, even though it sometimes occurred at the expense of the rest of the cast and crew. Levine was appreciative of the professional relationship between Long and Kelsey, noting that while they sometimes showed signs of tension, they were both able to display gracious behavior in the presence of a camera. He shared a personal experience about a rehearsal session where Long and Kelsey were seen having a brief laugh over a spilled property, a bottle of water that had rolled off the table after a tense acting display, thus showing they were able to use humor as a way of relieving tension, even though they were not necessarily close. Concluding his blog post, Levine reiterated the truth of the matter with the definiteness of, he earned that promotion. He asserted that the lengthy stint of Kelsey on Cheers was nothing but the result of his hard work, and that there was no secret machination between Long and the outcome. It is with this confirmation from Levine's statement that the depth of the drama that went on behind the camera is substantially less than what the gossip magazines claimed. And so, in the end, the significance of this event is an important lesson that in television and in the reality of life itself, talent and hard work ultimately outweigh mere rumors. Yet if talent beat rumor here, why did one star walk away while another stayed? And what drove that split? Shelley and Kelsey's departures. Shelley Long shocked the Cheers cast and audience with her decision to leave the show after the 5th season. The show was still riding high, a phenomenal success, as Shelley Long herself reached the pinnacle of her success as the beautiful but snobbish Diane Chambers. However, after 5 seasons of playing the lead in a successful television series, Long decided she'd had enough. The tedium of playing the same character on a weekly basis took a toll on Long herself. More specifically, Long realized the inevitable in television. The character never changes. Her story would be pretty much the same if Long chose to stick with the series. To top it off, Long realized people treated her shabbily, both on the set of Cheers and outside. People confused Diane's weakness with her own. Long admitted that her character Diane has a habit of being a pain in the butt, and people naturally reacted the same way towards Long. It would seem likely that there is a nugget of truth in the evaluation. Conversely, Kelsey Grammer stuck with the show throughout the series until the end. However, because of the successful telefilm series Frasier, his decision lasted longer than the rest of the casts. This supports the notion of producer Ken Levine. Kelsey Grammer got the chance because of his genuine talent. It couldn't be a snobbish act on Levine's part, because if so, the pretentious Crane would never be a success in this television series. The departure of Shelley Long represented a crucial event in television history, influencing the manner in which television networks treat a change in the cast of a successful ensemble sitcom. The show, running since 1982, was a staple of popular culture, with the Boston setting of the show almost as famous as the characters themselves. The show received consistent, high viewership and amassed a collection of Emmys, including several awards for Outstanding Comedy Series. Diane Chambers found herself right in the middle of the show's pivotal storylines, particularly with regard to her on- and off romantic relationship with Ted Danson's Sam Malone character. Off-screen, the mood became steadily more tense. Long allegedly had trouble getting along with the producers and co-stars. She also believed that her character did not have much substance and that she was stuck in the role of the pretentious intellectual. Simultaneously, the show's writers were struggling to come up with new ideas for storylines involving Diane that did not feature Sam or her educational credentials. All of this frustration and restlessness hung over Long, who hoped to establish herself as an actress in her own right and avoid being known simply as the girl from Cheers. Leaving was certainly not a decision that Long took lightly. She spent months negotiating with the producers to find a way to leave that would please everyone. There was talk, for instance, of perhaps keeping her around on a recurring basis rather than as a series regular, but ultimately, a clean start seems to have been best for all involved. Producers Glenn and Les Charles started to work on a means to write Diane off that would appease her fans and still enable a continuation of the series that did not have Diane in the lead. The effects of Long's departure were evident from the very start. The ratings for the 6th season, the first without Diane, started to dwindle momentarily as viewers adapted to the new dynamic between the characters. However, the entrance of Kirstie Alley, who played Rebecca Howe, brought much-needed freshness to the series. Alley's character was specifically crafted to be the opposite of Diane, highly witty and less academic, and had a different dynamic with Sam. At the same time, the character of Frasier Crane, who was first conceived as a possible romantic interest for Diane, also emerged as one of the favorite characters from the series. Grammer's portrayal of the pretentious but deeply well-meaning shrink struck a chord with the audience, and the writers soon started extending his role. His tumultuous life as a separated husband with his wife, Lilith, who was portrayed by Bebe Neuwirth, added an element of sophistication to the show. However, Frasier's success eventually led to one of the most successful spin-offs in television history. When Frasier's parent show, Cheers, concluded after its 11th season in 1993, Frasier relocated to Seattle, marking a new beginning. The spin-off successfully ran for its own 11 seasons, accumulating various Emmy Awards as well as rave reviews. Grammer's interpretation of Frasier Crane is one of the longest character acting gigs in U.S. television history. Indeed, upon reflection, producer Ken Levine's judgment appears especially astute. Although there was some initial trouble between actors Long and Grammer, it was the latter's obvious talent and the strength of the character that put him more prominently into the cast of Cheers. The continued popularity of Frasier, both as a character and a show, indicates that the true success was based upon good storytelling and not people issues. But while Frasier's legacy soared, how did another iconic co-star reshape Cheers, and leave an entirely different emotional mark behind. Kelsey and other co-stars. Kirstie Alley, a beloved actress, passed away on December 5, 2022, at the age of 71 after a brave battle with cancer that she only recently disclosed to her fans. She was a well-respected comedic actress and gained international popularity for her role on the NBC sitcom Cheers. She took over the role of Diane Chambers from actress Shelley Long, who had created and perfected the character during the 6th season of the show in 1987. When Alley joined the cast, many in the industry felt she would be unable to fill the shoes of Long. However, Alley proved them wrong by creating her own interpretation of the character of Rebecca Howe. She became an overwhelming success, attracting viewers in the United States and around the world, who appreciated her fresh energy and her unique take on the role. When the profoundly sorrowful news of her passing reverberated throughout Hollywood and beyond, Kelsey Grammer, the distinguished actor who portrayed the central character of Dr. Frasier Crane on Cheers before achieving tremendous success with his own spin-off series, found himself compelled to share an abundance of deeply moving and heartfelt sentiments about his former co-star and cherished friend. In stark contrast to the somewhat complicated and occasionally strained relationship he had experienced with Shelley Long, which had occasionally generated less positive commentary in the press over the years, Kelsey possessed nothing but the most effusive, loving, and profoundly touching observations to offer about Kirstie. He lovingly described Kirstie as possessing an authentic radiance that emanated from within, explaining that she embodied an indefinable special quality, a certain magical essence about her that naturally caused her to illuminate any environment she entered and touch the lives of everyone around her. He stated that Alley was honest and authentic in her relationships toward others, and she freely and generously shared her love, laughter, and caring spirit with everyone who was lucky enough to know her, whether they were co-workers on one of her many film and television projects, crew members working behind the scenes, or fans interacting when she was in public. Kelsey spoke about a very difficult time in his personal life when he was faced with legal issues and the public's critical eye, and with deep appreciation and emotion, he recalled that during that time of difficulty, Kirstie Alley was among the rare few individuals who remained loyal and supportive of him without conditions or reservations. She exhibited extraordinary friendship and devotion during this dark and trying period of his life, even going above and beyond by helping him discover precious moments of levity and relief through her gift of making him laugh during his most stressful and despairing moments, perfectly showcasing her incredible capacity for empathy, compassion, and steadfast support as a true friend. He poignantly reminisced that he had been looking forward to seeing Kirstie at a mutual friend's book signing celebration roughly 1 week before she tragically left this world, but was surprised and concerned when she was unexpectedly absent from the gathering. While at the time, he had no idea why she could not attend the event, he learned afterward that she had missed it due to the rapid and overwhelming advancement of her disease. Then, just 1 week later, a shocking and tragic event rocked the entertainment industry and broke many hearts as she passed away. Kelsey finished his heartfelt tribute by stating that he was incredibly blessed and grateful for the experience of just knowing her. He wanted everyone to know that her legacy and the impact she had on his life, the entertainment industry, and the countless other people she touched will always be remembered and will echo for years to come. But as one chapter closed in loss, could Frasier's next chapter reveal why this character refuses to ever truly leave? Even more of Frasier Crane reboots may dominate the TV landscape in recent years, but news of a new Frasier in the works brought joy not just to a TV industry obsessed with all things relaunch, but also reached the millions of viewers who grew up watching smart Dr. Frasier Crane and his eclectic entourage. The initial buzz was circumspect within industry circles, followed by official news from Paramount+, marking a return not just of a popular character, but of one of the smartest, most respected intellectual comedies on television. It was a series that deconstructed the conventional sitcom by incorporating a range of cultural allusions, nuanced psychology, and biting humor for viewers seeking a different level of comedy in a crowded field. The timing is also significant in the age of streaming, where companies are looking for proven properties that can deliver instant name recognition and provide a steady stream of subscribers. Frasier is a show that ran for 11 successful seasons from 1993 until 2004 and is just the kind of high-end product that companies are looking for. Shows that have won multiple Emmys, that have an active and passionate fan base, and that have reached the remarkable milestone of having been successful as a spin-off of another show and going on to outshine it in accolades, such as Cheers. The original series provided satisfactory closure when Frasier Crane ended up moving to Chicago in search of love with his father's physical therapist, Charlotte. However, the new iteration will offer a completely different perspective on Frasier's life by intentionally going against the continuity norms and instead taking into account the heritage as well as the fact that a significant 19 years have elapsed. Perhaps the biggest difference comes with the changed backdrop, as Frasier will be leaving the wet Seattle roads, the Elliott Bay Towers apartment, and Café Nervosa, the intellectual forefront of the series, where all the personal confessions occur. The specifics regarding his new hometown will remain a mystery as a deliberate mechanism to instill curiosity. Within the industry circles, a few prominent city choices have emerged that have the possible tendency to provide a similar ambiance to the one that Seattle presented. One of the cornerstones of this resurgence is the character of Frasier transitioning from a radio psychiatrist to a college professor. While it is well within the natural progression of the character's journey in life, it is almost a microcosm of the way in which the concepts of both mental illness in the real world and the dissemination of knowledge in the world of higher education are shifting. It is not simply a comfortable place for the story to unfold. It represents a desire of the man to impart wisdom in a way in which people can better understand themselves. A journey the man has been on since the dim saloons of Cheers. Possibly the most difficult to deal with and the most emotional of the changes the new show has decided to make regards the supporting characters. Without John Mahoney, Martin Crane will, of course, be missed, and it would not be something the new show attempts to replace. Martin Crane's influence on the person Frasier became will be acknowledged by the new show, so that what happened can be referenced, and the influence Martin Crane had on his becoming the person he was will not be forgotten. He was able to marry his intellect and his ability to make connections with people. Also, the characters who appeared in the supporting cast in the first show will not make an appearance in the sequel. David Hyde Pierce has stated that it would be undoing the perfect ending they had in the first show by going back. Both Jane Leeves and Perry Gilpin have also stated that their characters had concluded, and going back would spoil the ending they had in the first show. All three have expressed their pleasure in pursuing the new project, wishing Grammer the best. As a Paramount Plus flagship, the latest Frasier season promised a prominent investment effort in a saturated streaming market. Although a specific release date has not been locked down, it is reportedly primed to be a beacon of light between content giants Netflix, HBO Max, and Disney+. Pairing veteran voices from the original show with a new infusion of voices hopes to pay respect to the show's former legacy while helping it relate to a modern viewer who may have never watched it. Will the hardcore fans be pleased with the revamp? The argument is passionately divisive. Critics say that the chances of revivals capturing the magic of the originals are small, and worry that fresh characters and a fresh background will weaken the special mix of smarts and feelings that made Frasier. The lack of the core cast is bound to create a hole that the new cast cannot fill. Supporters argue Frasier is a show about one man and his personal connections. Indeed, John Nash has noted, Grammer has been playing Dr. Frasier Crane for more than 2 decades, a character complex enough to sustain a whole new series. The character has grown and changed, beginning as the snobbish, distant psychiatrist on Cheers and growing into a more self-aware individual who left Seattle in the series finale. So there is room to develop further. The university environment provides a ready-made dramatic premise to delve into modern-day psychiatry, education, and intergenerational communication, making it a show with potential viability as more than just an entertainment program. Ultimately, viewers will gather around the set simply because they are curious and have a deep appreciation for the character who has been a staple of popular culture for nearly 4 decades. The opportunity to learn more from this profoundly intelligent yet complicated individual, brought forward by the face most associated with the character, is, without question, an intriguing prospect, regardless of conventional viewing habits. If this new series is meant to be yet another success story, or merely an homage to the original, it promises to be an intriguing new beginning, just as the man himself has always lived. We have now come to the end of our video today. Did you know that Kelsey Grammer wrote that he was kept on Cheers simply to annoy Shelley Long? Feel free to share with us your thoughts on this topic in the comments section. Don't forget to also like, share, subscribe, and turn on the notifications bell so as to be notified anytime we make a new upload. See you in our next video.